In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we're expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org. The leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
We believe in the American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag because we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. We never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can. We're Americans.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show on K98 Talk. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening. It is so good to be back with you on this Thanksgiving Eve night. So happy to be piping through your radio into your ears. Let it soak into your brain and feel good, because we're going to have a little bit of fun tonight, as well as dropping a little bit of knowledge too. I just want to start off by saying that, I have so many good things in my life to be thankful for that one day a year really isn't enough. And I hope that all of you are blessed in the same way, and truly let the ones that make life worth living know that you are thankful for them. And in that vein, tonight we're going to go back in history just a little ways. We're gonna discuss the origins of Thanksgiving, and maybe not all the way origins in detail, but we're going to touch on it, and even going back to well before you would think that there's anything that would be called Thanksgiving. So anyway, let's start here at home in our great nation. In 1621, the Plymouth colonists and the Wampanoag Indians shared an autumn harvest feast that is acknowledged today as one of the very first Thanksgiving celebrations in the colonies. For more than 2 centuries, days of Thanksgiving were celebrated by individual colonies and states, but it wasn't until 1863, in the middle of the Civil War, that President Lincoln proclaimed a national Thanksgiving Day to be held each November. Now that just kind of sets the stage for where we're going to go, and we're going to back up even a little more now. And in September of 1620, there was a small ship. You might have heard of it. It was called the Mayflower. It left Plymouth, England, carrying 102 passengers, an assortment of religious separatists seeking a new home where they could freely practice their faith, and some other individuals lured by the promise of prosperity and land ownership in the quote-unquote New World. Well, after a treacherous and uncomfortable crossing of the Big Pond that lasted 66 days, and Big Pond is the Atlantic Ocean for those of you that have never served, they dropped anchor near the tip of Cape Cod, well north of their intended target of the mouth of the Hudson River. 1 month later, the Mayflower crossed Massachusetts Bay, where the Pilgrims, as they are now commonly known, began the work of establishing a village at Plymouth. Throughout that first brutal winter, most of the colonists remained on board the ship, where they suffered from exposure, scurvy, and outbreaks of contagious diseases. Only half of the Mayflower's original passengers and crew lived to see their first New England spring. In March, the remaining settlers moved ashore, where they received an astonishing visit from an Indian named Abenaki, who actually greeted them in English. Several days later, he returned with another Native American named Squanto, a member of the Pawtuxet tribe, who had been kidnapped by an English sea captain, sold into slavery before escaping to London, and returning to his homeland on an exploratory expedition. Yeah, say that a few times fast. Squanto taught the Pilgrims, weakened by malnutrition and illness, how to cultivate corn, extract sap from maple trees, catch fish in the rivers, and avoid poisonous plants. He also helped the settlers forge an alliance with the Wampanoag, a local tribe which would endure for more than 50 years, and tragically remains one of the very few examples of harmony between European colonists and Native Americans. In November of 1621, the Pilgrims' first corn harvest proved successful. Governor William Bradford organized a celebratory feast and invited a group of the fledgling colony's Native American allies, including the Wampanoag chief Massasoit. I'm assuming I say that right. I don't know. Now remembered as America's first Thanksgiving. Although the Pilgrims themselves may not have used the term at that time, the festival lasted for 3 days. And while no record exists of the historic banquet's exact menu, the Pilgrim chronicler Edward Winslow wrote in his journal that Governor Bradford sent 4 men on a fowling mission in preparation for the event, and that Wampanoag guests arrived bearing 5 deer. Historians have suggested that many of the dishes were likely prepared using traditional Native American spices and cooking methods. Because the Pilgrims had no oven and the Mayflower sugar supply had dwindled by the fall of 1621, the meal did not feature pies, cakes, or other desserts, which have become a hallmark of contemporary celebrations. Now, some of the other items that were on the menu for this Thanksgiving feast, whether you know it or not, were things such as shellfish, seal, and eel, to name a few. So the Pilgrims held their second Thanksgiving celebration in 1623 to mark the end of a long drought that had threatened the year's harvest and prompted Governor Bradford to call for a religious fast. Days of fasting and Thanksgiving on an annual or occasional basis became common practice in other New England settlements as well. During the American Revolution, the Continental Congress designated one or more days of Thanksgiving a year, and in 1789, George Washington issued the first Thanksgiving proclamation by the national government of the United States. In it, he called upon Americans to express their gratitude for the happy conclusion to the country's War of Independence and the successful ratification of the U.S. Constitution. His successors, John Adams and James Madison, also designated days of thanks during their presidencies. Jumping forward a little bit to 1817, the state of New York became the first of several states to officially adopt an annual Thanksgiving holiday. Each celebrated it on a different day, however, and the American South remained largely unfamiliar with the tradition. And why? Because the South ate like that every day. No, I'm just kidding. I really don't know why. But in 1827, the noted magazine editor and prolific writer Sarah Josepha Hale, among countless other things, of the nursery rhyme "Mary Had a Little Lamb," that's what she gets for sleeping in barns. Anyway, she launched a campaign to establish Thanksgiving as a national holiday. For 36 years, she published numerous editorials and sent scores of letters to governors, senators, presidents, and other politicians. Abraham Lincoln finally heeded her request in 1863 at the height of the Civil War. In a proclamation entreating the height of the Civil War, he asked all Americans to ask God to, quote, commend to his tender care all those who have become widows, orphans, mourners, or sufferers in the lamentable civil strife, and to, quote, heal the wounds of the nation. He scheduled Thanksgiving for the final Thursday in November, and it was celebrated on that day every year until 1939, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt moved the holiday up a week in an attempt to spur retail sales during the Great Depression. Roosevelt's plan, known derisively as Franksgiving, was met with passionate opposition, and in 1941 the president reluctantly signed a bill making Thanksgiving the fourth Thursday in November. Now, in many American households, the Thanksgiving celebration has lost much of its original religious significance. Instead, it now centers on cooking and sharing a bountiful meal with family and friends. Turkey, a Thanksgiving staple so ubiquitous it has become all but synonymous with the holiday, may or may not have been on offer when the Pilgrims hosted the inaugural feast in 1621. However, today, nearly 90% of Americans eat the bird, whether roasted, baked, or deep-fried, on Thanksgiving, according to the National Turkey Federation. I didn't know there was such a thing. Other traditional foods include stuffing, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie, and volunteering is a common Thanksgiving Day activity, and communities often hold food drives and host free dinners for the less fortunate. Parades have also become an integral part of the holiday in cities and towns across this country. Presented by Macy's department store since 1924, New York City's Thanksgiving Day Parade is the largest and most famous, attracting some 2 to 3 million spectators along its 2.5-mile route, and drawing an enormous television audience, which is a shame. Because quite frankly, I don't think you should have the TV on Thanksgiving. I think it should be more centered around the family and friends. But it typically features marching bands, performers, elaborate floats conveying various celebrities, and giant balloons shaped like cartoon characters. Beginning in the mid-20th century, and perhaps even a little earlier, the President of the United States has, quote unquote, pardoned one or two Thanksgiving turkeys each year, sparing these birds from slaughter and sending them to a farm for retirement. A number of U.S. governors also perform the annual turkey pardoning ritual, which I think happens to be one of the not necessarily biggest, but just most flamboyant wastes of taxpayer dollars. And in case you didn't know, the turkey that was pardoned this year was flown to the White House. So think about this. We paid government employees to fly out to California to select a turkey, purchase that turkey, and put that turkey with the employees back on a plane, fly it to Washington, D.C., and then we had government vehicles transport this thing in a mini convoy to the White House so the president could put on his Sunday best and issue a pardon so this thing could be flown to another location where it will live out the rest of its natural life on a farm. Now, I get the tradition, okay? I really do. But right now, when our country is so far in debt, do we really need to be spending money on that? Just a thought. Now let's get back to the pleasantries, shall we? So there are some controversies that have to do with Thanksgiving. For some scholars, the jury is still out on whether the feast at Plymouth really constituted the first Thanksgiving in the United States. And some historians have recorded other ceremonies of thanks among European settlers in North America that predate the Pilgrim celebration. In 1565, for instance, the Spanish explorer Pedro Menendez de Avila invited members of the local Timucua tribe to a dinner in St. Augustine, Florida, after holding a mass to thank God for his crew's safe arrival. On December 4th, 1619, when 38 British settlers reached a site known as Berkeley Hundred on the bank of Virginia's James River, they read a proclamation designating the date as a day of thanksgiving to Almighty God. Some Native Americans and others take issues with how the Thanksgiving story is presented to the American public, and especially to school children. In their view, the traditional narrative paints a deceptively sunny portrait of relations between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people, masking the long and bloody history of conflict between Native Americans and European settlers that resulted in the death of millions. Since 1970, protesters have gathered on the day designated as Thanksgiving at the top of Coles Hill, which overlooks Plymouth Rock, to commemorate a national day of mourning. Similar events are held in other parts of the country. Now, as I alluded to earlier, there are historians that say that there were days of Thanksgiving proclaimed much earlier in history. So we're going to touch on that real quick and go a little further into detail with it. But it says here that although the American concept of Thanksgiving developed in the colonies of New England, its roots can be traced back to the other side of the Atlantic. Both the separatists who came over on the Mayflower and the Puritans who arrived soon after brought with them a tradition of providential holidays, days of fasting during difficult or pivotal moments, and days of feasting and celebration to thank God in times of plenty. As an annual celebration of the harvest and its bounty, moreover, Thanksgiving falls under a category of festivals that span cultures, continents, and even millennia. In ancient times, Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans feasted and paid tribute to their gods after the fall harvest. Thanksgiving also bears a resemblance to the ancient Jewish harvest festival of Sukkot. And finally, historians have noted that Native Americans had a rich tradition of commemorating the fall harvest with feasting and merrymaking long before Europeans ever set foot on their shores. So, there you have it, folks. There's kind of a historical look back at Thanksgiving. gives you a little more appreciation maybe for where we came from to where we are. Maybe it makes you a little sad like it does me. I think we just, as a nation, I think we lose focus on what's really important. And, while I want to say that we lose focus on things that are important, I want to also say that not everybody has lost that focus. And I'd like to recognize a company called REI. It's a sporting goods outlet. Well, not outlet, but a sporting goods chain. If you're familiar with them, do yourself a favor and patronize that business. They took it upon themselves to not only stay closed on Thanksgiving Day, but they're going to pay every employee that's on their payroll for a full day's work for Thanksgiving Day. So God bless REI Sporting Goods. The only thing that's getting me out of the house on Friday, will be a fire or my workout. And that's about it. I intend to concentrate on the important things in my life, and that'll be my family and my friends. And I hope you do the same. But I don't judge. That's not my job. So anyway, that takes care of the Thanksgiving part of the program. And want to move on to something that's just a little more serious. I alluded to it during the Thanksgiving talk, but we have a problem in this country with our national debt. And I was reading that under President Barack Obama, who hasn't even done his full 2 terms yet, the federal government has now increased the debt by more than $8 trillion under Barack Obama. Now, the total federal debt, based on the numbers published by the U.S. Treasury, this is as of close of business Monday, so we're not dead on accurate here, but it was $18,722,746,583,118.03 at the close of Monday. That works out to about $159,000 per household, and has increased approximately $68,750 per household during Obama's presidency. On January 20th, 2009, when Obama was inaugurated, the total debt of the federal government was $10,626,877,048,913.08. So there you have it. $8 trillion of debt so far. So far. We still have over a year to go under Obama. So as of September, according to the United States Census Bureau, there were 117,748,000 households in the United States. And that's where the $159,000 per household comes from. That's just painful, folks. Painful. And what do we have to show for it? I mean, the portion of the federal government's debt that is held by the public, as opposed to the portion that's borrowed out of the government trust funds, such as Social Security and Medicare trust funds, has more than doubled during Obama's time in office. Okay? So, The debt held by the public when Obama took office was $6.3 trillion. And the debt that was what they call intragovernmental, which is what comes out of these trust funds, was $4.32 trillion. So think about that, okay? That's wow. That's a lot. I mean, from point A to point B, that's a lot. So the 18.722 trillion in the total federal debt at the close of business Monday. Now get this. This is the comparison number that really hits home. We're talking public debt here. This is the debt that comes from you and I. Okay? Increased from his inauguration day from $6.3 trillion to now being $13.5 trillion. Now, the intragovernmental debt has only increased by $1.9 trillion, which not a bad thing. I mean, it's bad that it's increased. It should be going down, not up. But at least that tells us that they're not stripping everything out of the government funds like they could be and probably would be if they could get away with it. But so far under Obama, the debt held by the public has increased $7.2 trillion, or in terms that are a lot easier to grasp, 113.8%. Think about that. It took the United States, which declared independence in 1776, 229 years to accumulate its first $8 trillion in federal debt, with the debt first surpassing that level in October 2005. Debt held by the public represents federal debt issued by Treasury and held by investors outside the federal government. We're going to stop here no, we're not. We're going to press to the end of this. We're close, and then we'll break for a commercial. So, this includes individuals, corporations, state or local governments, the Federal Reserve, and foreign governments, according to the Government Accountability Office. The majority of debt held by the public consists of marketable Treasury securities, such as T-bills, T-notes, bonds, floating rate notes, Treasury inflation-protected securities that are sold through auctions and can be resold by whomever owns them. Treasury also issues a smaller amount of non-marketable securities such as savings securities and state and local government series securities. Intragovernmental debt holdings represent federal debt owned or owed by Treasury to federal government accounts. Okay, this is where they take the money from Social Security and Medicare and all that. Okay, and that typically have an obligation to invest in federal securities. Their excess annual receipts, including interest earnings over disbursements, says the Government Accounting Office. Now, what does that mean? That means our asses are in a serious financial fix in this country. That's what it means. Okay? We need to do our homework, and I preach it all the time. Do your homework. It's not enough to be a one or two issue voter. You've got to go beyond that. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to leave all the money talk behind, and we're going to get into some more interesting and timely matters like NATO, Turkey, Russia, jets being shot down, things of that nature. So sit still, stay tuned. We got about another 25 minutes before the show ends. And if I can't fill it with fun facts, then we'll just fill it with fun. So Stick around. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby, ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
All right, I should be able to buy you about 2 minutes.
Wondering why you're up early with us on a
nice.
Sunday morning making a cocktail? News lately got you drinking? Hung over from the mainstream media by Sunday? We are, and we got you covered.
We sure do.
You
We
got a
got your
big day
head over
planned for
here
tomorrow?
this weekly news
Oh, yeah.
blues.
The
So
family's
sit
coming
back,
over here.
top up your
Nice.
mimosa, and add some Baileys
Everybody
to that
coming to
coffee.
check out the new place, huh?
Take a match to
Coming
your
up to check
copy
out
of
the
the
new
New York
place and eat up
Times.
all the turkey.
Light,
There you
fun,
go.
and oh yeah, news with booze.
And a lot of laughter.
Welcome to
There
Bloody
you
Mary's
go.
Promotions.
Now we'll be heading down to the sister-in-law's tomorrow.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their
Yeah, well, it
families,
could be.
asking them to put themselves
It
in
just
harm's
depends.
way, to endure it all. But we do
else is
understand
gonna
that
be
it's
there
our
and
turn,
how
our
much
duty,
drinking will
to
be
keep them
going on.
secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rails. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done, and stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby, ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
All right, welcome back. Glad to have you here. If you want to call and shoot the breeze on this Thanksgiving Eve, the number here is 408-681-8255. That's 408-681-8255. Yeah, I don't even care if you want to hate on me. Call me up and hate on me. I don't care. It's Thanksgiving. I'm going to be thankful. So before we get back into the topics of the day, let's do a little housekeeping here real quick. Mr. Producer, are you on later tonight?
Actually, I have a house full of nieces and nephews, so I will not be doing a live broadcast after all.
There will not be a live broadcast, a replay though, yes?
Yes, there will be a replay.
So there will be a best of America Off the Rails with Rowdy Rick. Do yourself a favor. You may not have heard it. I know you probably have because you're listening all the time to K98 because that's what you do. That's what all the cool kids are doing. And you know you want to be a cool kid out there. So you're going to stay tuned in. But listen anyway. It's going to be good. So, and with tomorrow being Thanksgiving, I would assume that nobody's going live tomorrow, right?
As far as I know, no one is required to go live tomorrow. JD and Stacy have said something about they may do a show tomorrow night, but they are not obligated to do so.
I got you. Okay, so there may be JD and Stacy doing Game On. I guess we'll find out more tomorrow as we get a little closer. Watch the timeline because if I see an announcement for a show, I will tweet it out for you. Want to make sure you get as much as you can get. So anyway, and other than that, you know, you should be tuned in. We got a little bit of lineup change going on here at K98. We got some exciting things happening. And I may not have all the names and places down pat right now, but I will. And you should just be tuned in all the time anyway, because, I mean, it's more than just prime time. But let me tell you, the prime time is where it's at. So do yourself a favor, tune in whenever you see a tweet for a live show coming, because you're not going to be sorry. All right. So that's enough of paying the bills. Let's see. What in the heck can we get into here? So we got a little dispute going on over, I guess, in the Middle East theater. Turkey claims that a Russian fighter, an Su-24, strayed across its airspace and ignored several warnings, and they were forced to shoot it down. And Russia says that not so fast. We weren't over your airspace. And by the way, what's up with all those SOBs shooting at our pilots while they're parachuting down? I've never had that, but that's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, that's not even sporting. Not even sporting to shoot a guy that's bailed out of a shot down plane in a parachute, in a flight suit. He's getting the wedgie of a lifetime from the pull up on that parachute already. It just ain't right. So anyway, we got, I guess, a potential threat of a Russia-NATO conflict. Russia says that it's now going to deploy long-range air defense missiles to its base in Syria and destroy any target that may threaten its warplanes following the downing of that Su-24 by Turkey. The incident, the first time in half a century a NATO member shot down a Russian plane, may put Moscow and the alliance on the verge of a direct conflict. If Russia shoots down a Turkish plane, Turkey, a NATO member, could proclaim itself under attack and ask the alliance for military assistance. The situation is even more alarming as Russian and Turkish presidents are strong leaders reluctant to back down and seek a compromise. A lot of observers believe that while direct military confrontation is unlikely, the shooting down of the plane will further fuel the Syrian conflict and complicate international peace efforts. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin is going to be sending S-400 missiles to the Hmeimim Air Base in Syria's coastal province of Latakia, just 50 kilometers away from the border with Turkey. Now, these missiles are capable of striking targets in about a 250-mile range with pretty deadly precision. I mean, this is not JV weaponry here. The military also moved the Navy missile cruiser Moskva closer to the shore to help protect Russian warplanes with its long-range Fort air defense system. So the Russian defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, says, quote, "It will be ready to destroy any aerial target posing a potential danger to our aircraft." Boom. He added that from now on, Russian bombers will always be escorted by fighters on combat missions over Syria, and announced that severance of all military ties with Turkey. Now, there's a fella in here, and I'll go ahead and make an idiot of myself trying to say this guy's name, and you can laugh at me if you want to. That's fine. It's Özgür Unlusarshikli. Yeah, Unlusarshikli, I guess. He's the director of the German Marshall Fund in Ankara, Turkey. And he said downing of a Turkish plane by Russia is also a possibility. He said Turkish planes violate the Syrian border daily, either for reconnaissance flights or for the anti-ISIS operations. In the same way that Turkey argues it has rules of engagement, Russia could also declare its own rules of engagement, saying it has the right to protect the skies of its ally. The Russian plane's downing marked a dramatic turnaround in relations between Russia and Turkey, who have proclaimed one another strategic partners in the past. Funny how just one plane and two pilots can ruin that relationship, isn't it? But they had been developing booming economic ties despite the differences over Syria. Now, Putin described the Turkish action as a crime and a stab in the back, and called Turkey an accomplice of terrorists. In a sign of escalating tensions, protesters in Moscow hurled eggs and stones at the Turkish embassy, breaking windows in the compound. Police cleared the area and made some arrests shortly after the protests began. But Turkish President Erdogan, who has often been compared to Putin for his authoritarian ways, said Wednesday that his country doesn't wish to escalate tensions with Russia. Probably pretty smart. Speaking at an Organization of Islamic Cooperation economy meeting in Istanbul, Erdogan said Turkey favors peace, dialogue, and diplomacy. He defended his country's move to shoot down the plane, saying no one should expect Turkey to stay silent to border violations or violations of its rights. Putin has dismissed Turkey's claim that the Russian warplane intruded its airspace, voicing particular annoyance about Ankara turning to NATO instead of speaking to Russia directly, as if it were us who shot down a Turkish plane. One of the Russian pilots was killed by militants in Syria after bailing out, while his crewmate was actually rescued by Syrian army commandos and delivered in good condition to the Russian base early Wednesday. A Russian Marine was also killed by the militants during the rescue mission. So we have a dead pilot and a dead soldier. Speaking in televised comments from the Russian base in Syria, the surviving navigator of the downed plane, Captain Konstantin Murakatin, denied that his jet veered into Turkey's airspace, even for a single second, he said. He also categorically rejected the Turks' claims that it has issued repeated warnings to the Russian crew before shooting down the plane. Putin said the foreign ministry's warning for Russians not to visit Turkey was needed because we can't exclude some other incidents following what happened yesterday, and our citizens in Turkey could be in significant danger. Excuse me. The leading Russian tourist agencies, they have tourist agencies, have already suspended the sales of tour packages to Turkey, a significant blow to Turkey that saw nearly 4.5 million Russian visitors last year, second only to German tourists. Osman Ayik, the head of the Turkish Hoteliers Federation, told Taraf newspaper Wednesday a decline in Russian tourists visiting Turkey would be a disaster for Turkey's tourism sector. I'm going to get tired of saying Turkey between today and tomorrow. If Russia-Turkey tensions escalate further, both countries potentially can inflict significant pain on one another in many areas. Russia was the biggest source of Turkish imports last year, worth $25 billion, which mostly accounted for Russian gas supplies. Most Turkish exports to Russia are textiles and food, and Turkish construction companies have won a sizable niche of the Russian market. Now, along with the economic moves, Russia may also increase its support to the Syrian Kurdish groups, something it had refrained from doing in the past not to anger Turkey. It could, for example, go ahead with plans to open an office in the Syrian Kurdish regions and supply arms to fighters. Interesting. Analysts said Turkey doesn't have the option of closing the Turkish Straits to Russia, which has used the route to supply its forces in Syria. According to the Montreux Convention, setting out international rules for using the straits, Turkey can only make the move if the two countries are formally at war. So even if Russia downs a Turkish plane, Ankara can't close the straits unless it formally declares war on Moscow. But wouldn't Moscow have to declare war in return? Or there wouldn't be a declaration making it anyway. I don't know. That's why I'm not Secretary of the State. Oh, I am so tired. Excuse me. Anyway, Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu sought to ease tensions Wednesday, calling Russia Turkey's friend and neighbor, and insisting that relations cannot be sacrificed to accidents of communication. He told his party's lawmakers that Turkey didn't know the nationality of the plane brought down Tuesday until Moscow announced it was Russian. Okay, maybe not. Anyway, Turkey has informed the United Nations that two Russian planes disregarded warnings and violated Turkish airspace to a depth of 1.36 miles and 1.15 miles in length for 17 seconds. Now, Russia's Lavrov shrugged off the Turkish argument that its rules of engagement required it to shoot down the plane, pointing at the 2012 downing of a Turkish warplane by Syria in its airspace. He said Ankara argued in that case that a brief incursion wasn't reason to shoot down its jet. He also pointed at routine violations of Greece's airspace by Turkish combat planes. He said the Turkish action was a planned provocation and rejected his Turkish counterpart's proposal to meet at the sidelines of some international forum in the coming days to try to ease tensions. Folks, I mean, for people to think that there's not a lot to this and that things won't escalate, there's a lot of crap that can happen if it does. So anyway, before Tuesday's incident, Russia and the West appeared to be inching towards joining efforts in the fight against ISIS, following the horrific November 13th attacks in Paris and the October 31st bombing of a Russian airliner over Egypt's Sinai Desert. The Islamic State group claimed responsibility for both attacks. Now, the downing of the plane came as French President François Hollande was visiting Washington prior to a trip to Moscow, set for Thursday in a bid to narrow the rift between the West and Russia and agree on a joint action against ISIS. On NATO's side, I think there's a strong desire not to jeopardize the diplomatic mission of President Hollande, Bruno Letty said, a senior analyst at the German Marshall Fund in Brussels. Meanwhile, Russia's Lavrov said that Russia remains committed to efforts to try to negotiate a Syria peace deal, but emphasized the need to take action against the group's sponsors. He accused Turkey of helping the Islamic State by buying oil from the group and said that terrorists used the Turkish territory to prepare terror attacks against other countries, which he did not name. So anyway, that's where we sit with Turkey and Russia. And quite frankly, it's a big hot mess. So who knows what's going to happen, but we'll stay tuned and we'll keep it churning. Now, some sad news on this Thanksgiving Eve. It appears that, according to the United States Census Bureau, of the approximate 73,623,000 children under the age of 18 in the United States, 15.6 million, or nearly 22%, were in households that subsist off of food stamps. Now, the Bureau's families and living arrangements data, which is derived from the current population's 2015 annual social and economic supplement, and which the Census Bureau says reflects 2014 numbers, shows that that's where we sit. The number and percentage of children in households on food stamps held relatively steady from 2013 to 2014, according to the census surveys. So, I mean, I guess that's good news. We'll see if that holds true for 15, I guess. You can go to the United States Census Bureau and look at the charts on this if you like. Obviously, we can't do charts on the air. I can simply relay data to you. But anyway, really, 22% of the children in this country are living in households that subsist off food stamps. That's disturbing to me. And what's really disturbing is the increase over the last 7 years. I mean, we're talking when Obama took office, that number was, where did that number go? Hang on just a second. Okay, so we're just under 16 million now. And 7 years ago, that number was half, 8.1 million. Half. So during Obama's tenure as president, the number of children living on food stamps has doubled. Folks, we are so in such a bad place. There is no opportunity. I agree, and I wholeheartedly believe in personal responsibility and pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps and busting your ass and making opportunities. There have to be opportunities also to be taken. And there aren't any. Obama's policies have screwed this country, and it has screwed minorities more than anybody. Look at the jobless numbers. The numbers for Black Americans are double those of white Americans and are 30% higher than Hispanic Americans. Hell, if there were a category for illegals, they probably have a better employment percentage rate than Black Americans do under Obama. What the hell are you thinking when you vote for a man like this? Are you so close-minded that it really only is about skin color? Because if you are, then I hope you live on food stamps for the rest of your life. Because that's not what this country's about. Now, folks, it's about time for me to wrap up. And before I do, I want to take a brief moment, and I want to thank each and every member of the K98 Talk family out there, whether you produce, whether you host a show, whether you are behind the scenes doing marketing, whatever it is that you do, if you're part of that K98 family, I want to thank you because you have made this past year for me something very special. And I'm truly looking forward to another fantastic year with the K98 Talk family. And I can only hope that you feel the same way, because I'm not going anywhere unless you drive bamboo shoots under my fingernails. So anyway, now I just wanted to take a quick minute and thank all of you that tune in to the programming, whether it's mine or anybody else's here on K98, or if you listen to all of ours, that's even better. But thank you, because we would be nothing without you. So as I get ready to sign off here at the top of the hour, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and may God bless you and your family and friends, and make it a very special holiday for you. And I will say peace out, and I will catch you next week on the Conservative Curmudgeon Show. Thank you. God bless.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me. Ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free.
Happy Holidays is a special time with family and friends, sharing the many blessings we have during the fall season. We here at K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network would like to say thank you for listening this year. So from our family to yours, have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and please keep listening to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.